Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. And it's just Marco here once again, and I am here to do another update of a list. This is going to be very tough because a lot of it has to do with looks, but a lot of it has to do with character as well. And you guys will see that, you'll kind of be like, oh, wait a second. Okay, I just want to make sure I didn't make any mistakes. So, we've talked about the Chucky series. I was really starting to like season 2. I thought that it had a lot of great ideas, but it has the same old mistakes that the first season has, where they just rush through the ideas. They don't fully let the ideas play out, and what ends up the result is a confusing mess, and I think that that's what it turned into by the end, unfortunately. One thing that it did okay is the chicks department. So it did half and half. The half was like I've noticed a trend nowadays though, where for some reason, I won't talk about that in this video, but I've been noticing this trend, and it's really kind of creepy. I've been watching American Horror Story, I've been watching every single season, and it's a little just weird, the way that, it's just weirdly distributed, the way that the characters are treated, the way that certain characters get to have all this and that shown, and then other characters can just be covered from head to toe, like they're a nun. Even the nuns on this show, they aren't always like that. So, but it's a weird trend, and I've noticed it a lot, and it's really creepy and weird, and it's shitty. I think that I'll call it the Ryan Murphy trend, even though that I know that he's not the only person responsible for this sort of it's weird, because it's these people, they talk all the time about how nudity in film and television is bad, it's not necessary, blah 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 blah. They say the same old bullshit over and over again. What it all boils down to is it doesn't fit their agenda. It puts women in, I guess, a sexualized position, which equals them not being, strong and independent. Whereas, with the male characters, they're perfectly okay now, just showing them fully nude all the time, just, constantly over and over and over again. And it really feels like that for the show, for all the shows and films recently. It just kind of feels like the complete opposite, where you don't have anything with the women, you just have everything with the men. And it's pretty stupid, to say the least. Because if you did all what you did with the male characters, you'd have a ton of complaints. You'd have protests, you'd have people saying this isn't necessary, this isn't good, this is sexist, this is a sexist show. And so it's weird how it's completely flipped the opposite way. It's totally backward and totally, it should be both people. Both types of people are fully sexualized all the time, because that's reality, people in the world, especially, nowadays, they sexualize themselves all the time on both sides. And so it's so weird and strange how we're now going to pretend one gender is never sexual at all. They're always just so uber serious. They're always so, just masculine, covered up from head to toe. And it's just it's really gross, in my opinion. It's an agenda. It's sickening. It's anti-society. It's anti-civilization. and I'm sick of it. And so that will lead into my first critique, and so we're ranking the Chucky chicks from season 2. There's 10 technically, because one of them is just an actress playing 2 characters. So number 10 is Glenn. Now, Glenn in Seed of Chucky, he was a terrible character. He's one of the worst characters of the series, and it was creepy too, the way that I don't know how to describe just this, the way that they turned him, that the image of him, it was a distinct look that they came up for him, and the way that they turned him into this girl with long girlish hair and no eyebrows, because he whatever is non-binary. And it's like, this is just stupid. This is not the character. This is not Glenn from Seed of Chucky in any way, shape, or form. It's just an actress portraying someone with a mental illness, a weird thing where it's like, oh, I'm not a man or a woman. I'm a nothing. But I'm something because I put myself in my own box so that I can specialize myself and victimize myself all the time. And that's the character of Glenn. This is not the character from Seed of Chucky. The character from Seed of Chucky was a man. He was a boy. It was not a non-binary person, even if you do believe in that type of crap, which, that's not the character. And so Glenn is at number 10 because he's turned into a girl with no eyebrows, and it's sick. It's just gross and sick. Number 9 is Glenda, not far off from Glenn. She did. It was really funny because they tried to have this tomboyish look for her, because basically, the point is that both of them are trying to look opposite of their supposed genders. And so Glenda looks like a boy, even though it's a girl's name. And then Glenn looks like a girl, kind of like an ugly Swedish girl. Even though, and by the way, ugly Swedish girls, that's kind of that's a rarity. And so it really shows how far we've come into just complete nonsense and complete, I don't even know how to describe it, just pure grossness. And so Glenda, not far off from Glenn, she has this tomboy look, and it just, ugh. There are plenty of great looking tomboys. This is not one of them. She was a terrible actress. She did a terrible job in the part. She was never believable in the whole series in any way, shape, or form. Even if you did think that they're 2 separate characters, I couldn't tell any difference. I mean, it just seemed like the same terrible modern day acting where you're just kind of looking off to the side and kind of pretending a little bit that you're doing something different, but you're really not. It's just kind of this, I don't even know how to describe it, it's almost like you're on autopilot acting, because it's too hard to actually act like a real actor from, the classic film era. Number 8 is Kyle. Kyle looks awful. I mean, honestly, I almost put her as worse than Glenda, if not for the nonsensical gender identity politics BS that they shoved into that character. Very, very nonsensical and pointless to that character. Did not fit the character at all. But do you know what was worse? Kyle. Kyle died in season 1. They did this shitty death, one of the worst, probably the worst death of the whole franchise, where she dives off screen in a weird explosion because she's so stupid she opened the front door where there's a trap. And so then they do the MCU fake out where, oh no, actually she didn't die, just like Andy didn't die. Wow, that's such intelligent writing, just constantly supposedly killing off characters and then bringing them back and being like, oh, actually they're alive. But Kyle now has this awful looking haircut. It's one of the worst haircuts I've ever seen. And it's brunette instead of blonde, and she has these glasses. She looks terrible. She doesn't look anything like the character. In fact, at first, I didn't even recognize her, and I was like, really? This is Kyle? And I just kind of laughed out loud, because it was, of course, a part of that abysmal episode, Death on Denial, which is the worst episode of the series, by far. Number 7 is Dr. Mixter. She was a great character because she was like the reverse Dr. Loomis. She was completely set on turning Charles Lee Ray into a killer, and just, I don't know, like, what her motivation was or anything, but like what her reasoning behind what she was doing. But she was really evil, but she had a classic look. She wasn't terrible looking in the show, and so she's just number 7. Number 6 is Nika. This character, I've gotten to the point where I'm just really sick of her. In season 1, she had some good moments, obviously. There was that one motel room scene that was pretty, it was probably the highlight of the series so far. But in this season, she's just kind of like there, just doing the same old thing where she's like, I don't want to be here. And then she turns into Chucky, and she has like a different persona. And to be honest, I pointed out in other videos, she actually, funnily enough, she does a better job acting when she's pretending that she's possessed by Chucky than when she does just acting like herself. And so I'd almost like to see her just completely transform. Like in the first season where she apparently played him in flashbacks. I was sad that I didn't get to see any flashback this season, because that was really good. But she doesn't really get many scenes, though. And then she escapes with Kyle, and by the end she has like robot arms, and they're just So that marks the halfway point. Those couple are trash. They were the lesser half of the female characters on the Chucky series. Number 5 is Sister Catherine. What's funny about this character is that she was very likable at first, and I felt like, ooh, cool. Like, because I was expecting all the people at this religious facility to be treated like they're evil. They're just pure evil, and they're just like these strict pieces of crap. But then you had this character, and she's basically like the cool teacher. And, she is pretty cool, and, her views on things, they're pretty good if you're talking about, like, reality. Like, if you're talking about, like, the real world. But on the show, it gets really annoying how she keeps on, like, questioning everything. Like, she's basically just there to question. She's not even there to be, like, a character. She's just there to question what other characters do. And so after a while, I kind of didn't like her character anymore, but she's still a likable character. She's the cool teacher, like Mrs. Frizzle from Magic School Bus. Number 4 is Lexi's mom. What's really funny is that her character in season 1, I don't even think I ranked her, but she's pretty good, and she has she has kind of a more modern Instagram look. And one of the things, though, that I liked about her character was that she actually had a little bit of depth to her in just one episode, and it made me wish that they had done that, the whole time, instead of just doing it, shoehorning it in at the end, like with Howard on Better Call Saul, where it's like, look, guys, Lexi's mom is sad sometimes. Look, guys, Lexi's mom is a person too. And it's like, whenever they do that on a show, it's just an obvious last-minute attempt to make you like a character, and it just doesn't work with me at all. Number 3 is Meg, which is Tiffany's sister, aka Jennifer Tilly's sister. She's really, really likable, and I was really pissed off when they killed off her character, because, she was like a cup of hot cocoa on the show, and she just warmed everything up, and she just came on, and she seemed like the voice of reason, and it was really weird how she seemed like the perfect character. Like they had this like whatever happened to Baby Jane story going on, and you had the real Jennifer Tilly is in prison, and it just seemed like a really great idea that was poorly executed because they rushed through it, and then they killed off Meg. But she's still at number 3. I could have honestly put her at number 1 just for her personality, but she was rushed off the show. So now number 2 is Sister Ruth. She got this far because of her looks and not necessarily her character, because her character is pretty much like just there for plot convenience. Like, I think that just looking at all the characters' stories, her character, that was probably like one of the weakest stories of the whole season, if not the whole series, in terms of her character's journey was trash. I really didn't get the journey of her character. It was basically, I think that this guy is Jesus, Chucky, the buff Chucky, and that's it. Like, that's all that her character was like a religious person who gets entranced by somebody that they think is somebody else. It's like, and then she becomes like a slave to him a little bit, but not really fully. And there's this weird feet fetish thing that goes on. And I was like, okay, this is just... That was weird, too. Oh, shit, I forgot a character. Shit. I forgot the WWE superstar. I can't remember what her name is. She was in like 1 or 2 scenes. But technically, she would count on this list. I can't even remember what she looks like, though, so I can't even... number 1 is Tiffany. What's really funny is that it was so perfect this season in terms of the way that she looked, that Safi was actually criticizing the show, and she was really upset and offended that her boobs were hanging out all the time. And so, that just shows, at least they did good on her character, because she really stood out this season. I felt like, even though her story was disappointing, it was a lesser story than the main one that was going on. She was really good in it, as usual. I really like how her over-the-top style is still in this show. I'm glad that like she's not playing a boring, dull version of her character in the same way that like, I don't know, like, when people think like when they're acting they just have to be completely serious and completely like just this dull cardboard cutout of a person. I really prefer the people who have fun with what they're doing like with Jennifer Tilly in this show. She did a really good job this season, and she deserves a lot of praise in terms of this show. Because in the first season, I was really not a fan of her character. I wanted her character to just leave. In this season, at least she was really tolerable, and she had some great moments of story. She had great fashion too. They really did a good job in the wardrobe department, and so she's number one. So please like this video, comment, tell me how you would rank the Chucky chicks of Chucky season 2, and then please subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more ranking videos like this. Tomorrow I will be doing the impossible, and I will be ranking the X-Files women, which will be I think that's going to be like the biggest chore I've had to do all year, but it'll probably be lots of fun. So anyways, goodbye everybody, see you soon.